Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Patience by Daniel Clowes. This is a 2016 graphic novel that he put out. Beautiful production. Look at this, it's got like silvery lettering. I don't know if you can see it. Kind of nice and reflective. Love this cover. That's some really nice Clowes art. Really nice big fat book. Beautifully designed. Just a really good looking book. And look at this, the end papers. Dan Clowes does a lot of visually striking stuff in this book that I've never really seen him do before. Just really experimental, almost like psychedelic art and crazy graphics like this. I've never seen him do stuff like this. It looks like something from Kramer Zergott or something, but really nice stuff. Even this credit page, I love this. Just weird floating objects. It's pretty interesting, fun to look at. So we start off in 2012, and there's this young couple, Patience and Jack, and they're just getting the pregnancy test done, and they're gonna have a baby. And it's good news because they're totally in love with each other. They both want a baby. And it's good. Even just showing the pregnancy, impregnation is kind of like this nice, cool, psychedelic image. They're very much in love. It's kind of sweet, their relationship, how much they love each other. They both have like she especially has a really bad past. She's basically been fucked over her whole life. And he was always miserable his whole life. They found each other and found happiness for the first time in their lives. So it's this really like kind of tender, like, oh, that's so nice that they found each other. They're both equally grateful they found each other and both equally in love with each other, which is kind of rare. So there, of course, they have their worries. He's worried about making enough money to support them. She's just worried about, you know, her whole life she's had to worry because she's always been dicked over. So she's kind of a worrywart. We see this guy here on TV in 2012. He's some kind of like political thinker who's gaining traction. And seems like he's some douchebag, you know, like they both kind of act like or think like, oh yeah, this guy's an idiot. But he's becoming very popular. So Jack has a job handing out porn flyers, and Patience doesn't know this. He's been lying to her. He told her that he got this nice job, but this is what he's been doing for 6 months. And he feels he's torn up about lying about it to her because he loves her so much. And he basically vows to tell her. He's like, I gotta tell her. I can't live this lie anymore. So he heads home to their apartment. And when he gets there, Patience is dead. Someone killed her. Of course, he's just completely devastated, ruined. When the cops come, they blame him. And nothing he says can convince them otherwise. It seems like they're like lazy cops who just want to close the books on this case. And like, we'll blame the boyfriend. That's easy. So they keep him in jail for like 10 months. And then finally, they find DNA evidence that proves it was someone else. So they let him out of jail. No apologies. Just his life is just is ruined. He makes some money, though, by doing a tell-all thing with some journalist. Takes a few photos, answers some questions, and he gets a lot of money. So he doesn't have to work. He just basically gets a cheap apartment, the cheapest apartment he could find, and basically decides to find her killer because the cops aren't doing squat. The art here is very, like, straight for Dan Clowes. It's like Dan Clowes trying to just draw, like, for, I don't know, an EC comic or something. I kind of think the amount of pages was a little too much for Dan Clowes. Because some of these panels I wish were a little better rendered. Some of this stuff is just like, it doesn't look that great. It's not the best art you've ever seen from Dan Clowes. But there's a lot of pages. This is, I think, the fattest graphic novel he's ever done. I haven't gotten Monarchy yet, his latest. That could be bigger. I don't know. But the art's kind of perfunctory sometimes. It's just like, I guess it's working. It's telling the story. But like I said earlier, there's some really visually striking art in here that's surprising for Dan Clowes. And that almost makes up for it. So he's doing this investigation. He even goes back to Patient's old hometown, talks to her cousin, tries to find out if she had any boyfriends who might have a grudge who could have killed her. The cousin gives him a lead. She used to date this drug dealer. And he goes asking around, asking people if they know this guy. And now we jump ahead. 2029. And we see Jack. He's old, bitter. He's become a very angry man. He's kind of not a nice dude. He's kind of a mean old bastard. And kind of a drunk, too. And I love this. Dan Clowes imagining, like, all these crazy fashions. I mean, this is only 15 years in the future from when he wrote it around. And it's just like, I don't know if people are really going to be wearing stuff like this. I know fashion's unpredictable, but look at this crazy future vista. So he's walking by an alley, and this pimp is beating up one of his prostitutes. I guess it's popular in the future to dye your skin colors. People are like green and blue. Jack intervenes and beats the shit out of the pimp. And she offers to buy him a drink to thank him. And he tells her his whole sad story. I like this guy. Wearing like a Superman outfit. Later on, we find out his name's Super Creep. He's just some dude who likes to go around dressed like that. You can tell she's, her heart's really going out to him. She feels very sad about his story. So she invites him up to her room. She gets him high. And then she basically says, let's make love. And he throws her down and says, fucking whore, don't touch me. He apologizes, though. He breaks down crying. He's just messed up. He hasn't been with a woman since Patience, all those years. He hasn't touched anyone. He hasn't been able to move on. It's like quite a love he had for her. Or he's just psychotic, I don't know. But it seems like their love was incredibly strong. So she happens to tell him about one of her clients. He's kind of this weirdo. His name's Bernie. And his way to deal with pain in his life is he's going to invent a time machine and go back to when he was happy. Problem solved. And he actually, when she goes to sleep, Jack looks up her, like, client, her little black book, you know, and finds Bernie, finds his contact information, and goes, stalks his apartment or stakes out. And there he is. There's Bernie with his crazy modern fashion. He follows him around, strikes up a conversation with him. And he waits till he's gone one day and he goes to this place. But then he realizes, I can't believe I fell for this shit. That's how desperate I am. It's like, there's no time machine. So he goes back to that bar, and the prostitute has been beat up by her pimp. She's furious with Jack. because Bernie basically went to her and said, "You broke my trust. This is all supposed to be confidential." And this guy came around. You must have told him about me. And so he's gonna take care of Bernie. He sees Bernie get in his little car and drive out to the woods, and he does this thing where he goes out into this grassy field, and all of a sudden he poofs out of existence. And then he's on the other side of the field eating a pie all of a sudden. So he actually did like some kind of time travel and then came back. And he's like, he feels the blood gushing back into his heart. He's like, the time machine's real. I can sort all this shit out. I can redeem my life. Now we jump back to 2006. We see young Patience before she met Jack. She's a wreck. She can't pay for school. She has to drop out of college. She's just got a lot of emotional issues. Not a happy young woman. She comes home. Her mom's away, but the stepfather's there. He's a total creep. I really like the dialogue here. How she just kind of is just chopping on him subtly. Kind of mocking him. We see her cousin here when she's young. So she gets her old job at this diner that she had in high school. Her boss is really nice. She's like, "We're going to get you lots of tips and get you out of here, honey." So these rich kids are there. And this one guy, his name's Will. He, I don't know, he's different than the other rich guys. And he kind of has some interest in Patience. And she seems to have an interest in him because of that. And she's talking to her friends, her cousin and her boyfriend, about him. And like, "Oh, I don't know, I kind of want to date him, I think." So he comes in the next day and asks her out. They're going to have a date. But then she serves a cup of coffee to some old guy. It's Jack. So Jack's back in 2006. We don't know what he's going to do yet. But of course, he can't stand it. I mean, it's the love of his life, but when she's younger. But he can't, say anything or do anything. So he lives in this little abandoned house. And he's on a mission. He's kind of spying on her, trying to get information, trying to figure out who might be the person from her past who killed her later on, 6 years later. She goes on the date with Will. Turns out he's at first he just seems kind of a nice, I don't know, weird guy. But then he takes her out to the woods. It turns out to be a total creep. She has a reputation, I guess. I guess when she was younger, she went kind of wild, fooled around. She was promiscuous. So this guy brings that up as like, "Oh, is it true that this guy says you're pretty wild?" And he just whips out his dick and tries to coerce her into giving him a blowjob. And she won't, of course. She's like, "Stop." She starts crying. And then the friends are there videotaping the whole thing. His rich friends. It was all some, cruel joke. And they all run off. And she is just devastated. She's just angry and sad and just feels violated. So Jack is watching this, and he, of course, he's not supposed to fuck with time, the past. But he's just like, "Oh, these fuckers are dead." Because he loves Patience so much, and they hurt her so bad. So the guys are back at their pad looking at the video. And one of them, Will, is kind of walking off near the wood. Oh, he's taking a piss, sorry. So he's by the trees. And Jack just starts thrashing him with this branch. And when another friend runs over to help, he thrashes him too. Really messes him up. So one of them calls the cops and yells, "The cops are on their way, motherfucker." So Jack hightails it out of there. He has the camera and he smashes it. But the videotape's still there. The little tiny videotape. So all the captions, I should mention, it's almost all first person, bouncing between Patience and Jack. And, I can't read the whole thing to you, but there's just a lot of good, it's Dan Clowes, great writer. So there's a lot of great character stuff in there where it's like, just really well done. Just what they're thinking and stuff. I'm just giving you the bare bones plot as I go through. Yeah, some of this art is just so perfunctory. It works. It does definitely tell the story. Dan Clowes knows how to do that, but I don't know. This is definitely more about the writing for me than the art. So he's got more leads on this Adam fellow. Adam is the drug dealer she used to date. And I guess Adam was in jail for a couple of years. Now is under house arrest, living with his mom. So he's back in town. Luckily, Patience is just like, "Oh, fuck that guy. I'm not going back to assholes." I've had enough assholes like that in my life. So Patience agrees to see Adam, and because she assumes Adam's the person who beat the shit out of those rich kids. He doesn't really know what she's talking about, but he doesn't necessarily deny it either. It's like, "Yeah, I probably did whatever you're talking about." They go to some party, and she's just totally like, she's kind of insulting him. He's a fucking, a caveman. He's definitely not worthy of her. And she blows up on him. So Jack goes to her Patient's house. And he reads her diary. He figures he's got to find more clues. And Patience comes home, so he hides in the closet. Patience is basically she's done. She takes all the money she has. She's going to take a bus out of there. She has to go. Her life is just shitty in this shitty little town. And then Adam shows up. And this seems brutal, man. He just starts totally brutalizing her. This is an interesting panel. It's almost like he feels like it's too much to see him slamming her into the wall. So it's like censored by this panel of Jack just seeing a bit of it too. He can't see the whole action. So we don't see it in either of these. He's really hurting her. Of course, Jack can't take it. He's not supposed to fuck with the past, but he's got this weird ray gun. And he zaps Adam, fucks him up. But not enough that Adam can't jump on him. But Jack beats the shit out of him. Patience grabs the gun, the ray gun, and says, "Stop." But he talks to her. And he basically says, "There's a box of money in the pink house at the end of the street. That's where I'm staying. It's all yours. Take it." And then the stepfather comes in with a gun. And I guess Patience must sense that this is Jack or someone she should trust. Because even though it sounds crazy, she pushes the stepdad out of the way and says, run. Some of these panels are just totally like classic action comics. I never thought Dan Clowes would be doing stuff like this. That could be some Wally Wood panel. The cops show up, and right when they're about to put the cuffs on him, he takes the little time travel juice. I guess this time travel stuff, it's juice that you inject into yourself. Okay, guys, here we go. Look at this. Have you ever seen Dan Clowes draw like this? This is nuts. And I'm amazingly nuts. I guess this is him going through time. But Steve Ditko would be so proud of Dan Clowes for doing this. It's like Dormammu's dimension or something. That's pretty amazing stuff. So he just disappears, you know, as far as the cops are concerned. And, of course, Patience is like, what the hell just happened? So Adam has to go back to jail, thankfully. She goes to the house and finds the money. She also finds the little video cassette and Jack's ID. So we see a little flash forward, I guess, at this point. And then it turns out to be a little a dream of Jack's. Jack wakes up in someone's lawn. And I think it's Patience's house. But he says, does someone named Patience live here? He knocks on the door. The guy's like, no. And he says, I know this sounds crazy, but what year is this? And you hear him say, fuck. Like you can't see the fuck. It's off panel. Because it's 1985. He somehow jumped back to 1985. So he's like, oh man, what the fuck am I going to do? He's barely got any money. That is I should have pointed that out. It's a weird technique Dan Clowes does in this. Sometimes people's panels just go, word balloons just go off panel. So it obscures like half of what they're saying. I guess to imply that maybe sometimes people don't listen when people are talking. Like it's just kind of small talk. So it's just like, yeah, it becomes background noise. He questions himself sometimes. He's like, do I more want to save my unborn baby and Patience, or do I want to kill her? He's consumed by vengeance. I mean, that's his whole life. It's been his whole life for like all this time. Just been thinking about how he can get revenge on the guy who killed his wife. He has this crazy dream. Just all these dream images. I really like this. It really does seem to capture just how stupid and crazy dreams are. And nonsensical. So he finds this guy, he's looking for him, named Wolf. And T.R. Wolf. And I guess he's a scientist. So he has the notebook, Bernie's notebook, which supposedly has his, like, you know, time travel stuff. His information about how he came up with the process. So he figures this guy, T.R. Wolf, will be able to make heads or tails of it. And maybe figure out how to make time travel, even though it's 1985. He goes to this club. And while he's talking to this woman, he has this horrible reaction. Something that maybe it's probably because he's been time traveling. It does weird shit to your body. His hand starts warping. I love that drawing there. And then look at this. Just crazy. Like, you really get the sense that whatever he's going through, you're like, I don't think any prose writer could convey this. But this is basically his experience. Like, he's totally tripping out. His body's rebelling against him or something, and his brain is going nuts. But then pretty quickly it goes away. This woman's still talking to him. So he finds Wolf, this guy. And Wolf has this buddy. And he's like, tell your buddy to go. We got some business to discuss. And he shows him the notebook. And he says, I want you to make a formula for me. Money's not an object. I can get you in as much money as you need. Wolf seems to be fascinated by the notebook. He's like, can I hold on to this? He's like, fuck no. So then the next day he goes to a casino because he, I guess it was a sports fan. So he remembers all these big games. So he's going to bet on some football games and make, $10,000. While he's doing that, though, they show the flashback of him copying the notebook. Because he's not going to give him the notebook, but, he needs to read it. So he goes to this illegal gambling parlor. It's in his old neighborhood where he grew up. He goes to visit his mom, which is kind of weird. And she doesn't seem very happy. Her husband left her, his dad. He says, be sure to take your diabetes medicine, okay? And she says, I don't have diabetes, but she will. So when he goes around the corner, he sees his young self playing with a football. And he says, toss it here. Go along. And he throws the ball with him. So he does figure out that, I guess we won't explode. That's a common time travel theory, that if you go back in time, your two selves can't exist in the same time era. So, they'll explode or something or dissolve. So in the illegal place, illegal gambling den, Jack wins his money. And he goes back to Wolf's apartment. And he kind of realizes that Wolf's been jerking him around. He really doesn't know what to do. And he gets violent with him. See, he's got a word balloon here, but you can't even read what it is. It's cut off. He does that a lot in this. It's an interesting technique. I don't know if I understand it, though. Why it's used or what the benefit of it is. So he realizes, fuck this shit. I'm just going to have to take out this Adam kid when he's a little kid. Because Adam's like a 1-year-old now. So he goes to the house. That's his mom. They're going to the supermarket. There's little Adam, this ugly little kid. No wonder he has such a bad attitude. I don't know why, I just think that's so clever, or weird. The supermarket's called Flavor Cost. So he's in the supermarket following them around, and he resolves to do it. Puts on a mask, takes out his ray gun, and is going to blow the kid away. But even though, consciously, he's like, I totally want to do this. He can't do it. He can't pull the trigger. So he hesitates, and then all his people run out, and he has to run for it. He botches his assassination. And he drives off into the country, destroys his car, and then goes back to his little hideout. Unfortunately, the security cameras caught him before he put his mask on. So everyone's on the lookout for him. So he puts on a disguise and he goes to meet Wolf again. Because Wolf calls him and says, dude, I actually have something here. So he's not bullshitting. Look, he's got this juice. And Jack smells it. He's like, this is really it. You really figured it out. Once again, panel just goes off. And Wolf asks for the notebook again. And he says, I guess you can look at it one more time. But then his buddy comes out with a gun. Wolf had this whole thing set up. He wants that notebook. He realizes that there's something valuable in it. And they want his device. He's got a cell phone from the future, which is like, can do remarkable stuff. It's almost like a mother box. So he tells them, he's like, oh, but I have to use my fingerprint to get it started for you. But he really just, I guess it's also a weapon, this thing. And it just totally blows off the arm of this guy with the gun and half of his face. So he gets his notebook back and gets out of there. Now we see 2012 again. Love that page. Really nice design. Oh yeah, I should mention this too. That is very un-Clowesian inking. Almost like he's trying to do like a Charles Burns thing. Or I don't even know who he's trying to be there. It's very odd. And we see Patience again. She's at her psychiatrist. She's remembering the things from her younger years, like the incident where Jack rescued her from Adam. So not only has she had a bad life and is kind of a depressed person, but she feels like she's losing her mind. She's like, I mean, that was crazy. That's like delusional what I saw, but I know I saw it. I think I'm crazy. And now we see the same earlier scene, but more from her point of view. The captions are from her point of view. It's the same scene where they're shopping for baby clothes and they're both worried about, how they're going to raise this baby. She wants medication, but the psychiatrist won't give it to her. She's like, I'm really think I'm going psychotic. I'm seeing crazy shit. And then she gets an email from Adam, who looks very different. She agrees to meet him, and Adam really seems to have changed. He's a Christian now. He goes to church. He met a nice woman there and has a kid with her. He's very apologetic. He's like, yeah, I'm so sorry the way I was back then. I've really changed. And but she really wants to meet him just to be like, that thing that happened that night when you were basically beating the crap out of me and that guy came out of the closet with the ray gun. You remember that, right? He's like, yeah. So she just wants to make sure she's not totally insane. And now we see Will again. Oh, I didn't tell you guys. So it turns out this is the same guy who tried to coerce her, the rich kid, who tried to coerce her into giving him a blowjob in the forest as a prank. So now he's this big, whatever, political thinker. And we see the same scene again of them watching him and like, oh, this guy's an idiot. I love this 2-page spread here. Really nice. Excuse me. Here's another one that almost looks like Clowes is trying to do Charles Burns. The inking, heavy inks. It looks good though. I like it. So we're basically reliving that day when she was killed. She goes to the beauty parlor just like she did on that day. Now we get to see it. They mentioned it earlier. She gets a bad haircut. And then Jack from the future shows up. And he kind of dopes her, drugs her. I love this stuff because she's like fucked up. And she's seeing everything all kind of crazy. Look at this, these crazy cars. Everything's all warped and wobbly. From her point of view. Excuse me, I need some water. Just these little swaths of color. Look at this too. That is crazy. He takes her to this motel. And basically says, you got to stay here until 6 o'clock. Don't let anyone in. And then she promises to do that. He leaves her all these nice snacks. The thing is, he doesn't want to necessarily stay with her because he knows that that's some weird thing that could happen. Like maybe he killed her. Like, you know, those weird time loop things in bad sci-fi. So he's just like, I'm not going to let that happen. So I'm going to leave her safe and sound and then get, away from her. He has another one of those incidences, though. This is some nutty stuff. Look at that. And this, I love this crazy, nutty imagery here. Complete psychedelic, surrealist nuttiness. I just never thought Dan Clowes would draw stuff like this. He's really good at it. I think from years of, looking at Steve Ditko and Wally Wood. So, Jack finds Adam. He doesn't know that he's been changed. That he's changed. He hits him with his car and knocks him out, and he takes him out to the woods, to his little cabin. And look at this. He's basically just gonna torture him and murder him. He's convinced Adam's the one who killed her. And, now he can't. So he's gonna change time. And then Bernie shows up in this crazy spacesuit. This is insane. Very cartoony and silly. He just totally zaps, disintegrates Adam. But then the dynamite goes off that Jack set. Jack was just going to blow up the cabin. At first he was going to torture Adam, but then he said, fuck it. I'm just going to blow him up. It's not worth my time and energy. So they both wake up at the same time, struggling for the gun, the ray gun. And Jack gets to it first and kills Bernie. He's pretty messed up. So, Patience escaped. She still doesn't know. She doesn't know it's Jack, She's like, this psycho kidnapped me. And she makes it back to their apartment. And she thinks Jack's there. She sees feet on the sofa, from the sofa. But it's not. It's one of those rich kids who's friends with Will. And Will holds up an iPad, and it's Will saying, basically, I need that videotape. that could get in the way of my political message being delivered. Basically saying, I don't want it to become a scandal. So she just conks this guy in the head with a vase. She's just like, motherfucker, get the fuck out of my apartment. She smashes the iPad screen, and then I guess he wasn't knocked out. And looks like he's going to kill her. He's like strangling her. And then old Jack comes out of nowhere. And starts wrestling with the guy. Patience picks up the ray gun. And Jack says, go ahead, do it. And she disintegrates that rich kid. And then they finally look at each other. And God, that's good art. That's really nice, Dan Clowes. The expression on her face is so amazing. Patience finally realizes, she looks at his face close up, is like, oh my God, I can't believe that's Jack. He's just older. I guess the whole time she kind of subconsciously knew, and now she just consciously realizes who this old guy is. And they chat about it. He says, we're finally free, Patience. But you have to make a choice. You have to clear your mind and tell me what you truly feel. Like, I could just stay here and be with you. So she says, I need a moment of silence. In the precise instant the decision formed in her mind, I felt a sudden jolt, and my entire being turned to dust, scattering outward into the void. So she basically decided, nah, that's just too weird. So I guess he had no reason to exist anymore. And we just see this amazing, crazy page. This is just full on bonkers. Really interesting stuff. I am separate from history, but able to see the entirety of universal consciousness, an endless series of patterns and variations. I can recall my first thought, a joy in my mother's heartbeat, and all others through to the very last. So it's kind of a nebulous fate for him, but I think he's dissipating, like just ceasing to be. Meanwhile, young Jack comes home. And he says, I need to talk to you. He just wants to tell her about how he has that shitty job. And she gives him this look. It's okay. I know everything. And that's a weird, look at that heavily inked style. That's so odd for Clowes. Really different. And then we go back to old Jack's voice with this amazing cosmic looking Steve Ditko-like page. And the more I saw, the further my embers drifted into the everlasting endlessness, the more it all seemed to matter. Every moment, every choice, every cell division, as hospitable to scrutiny as the last innings of a tied World Series or the hair fibers from an unsolved kidnapping, all affirming forever the one unassailable truth. And that's the end. Very odd ending. But I don't know, kind of gets to me. I don't know, when I read that, I almost got choked up. I don't know why. Here we have a little short bio of Dan Clowes. Nice little self-portrait and more wonderful, kind of crazy cosmic art. Some more nice end papers. That's pretty groovy. And this really nice back cover. So that's it, guys. I should probably read this again even. It's got a lot of layers to it. That ending, I'm not sure I quite get what Jack's fate is. I'm not sure. But that's what kind of makes it more interesting. And I'm sure next time I read it, maybe in a year or so, I'll maybe have another theory of what happened. I probably read this like 3 times already, and definitely like an onion. The layers keep unpeeling for me, but really good stuff. I gotta say though, I just want to gripe a little. You know, this is a great graphic novel, but it's not as good as any issue of 8 Ball. I really miss Dan Clowes. He's all serious now doing his graphic novels. They're all damn good. But yeah, he's really changed. It's kind of like Chris Ware. Like those Acme novelty presses, just such gold. Every 6 months you get this amazing piece of gold. And now, I like his graphic novels just fine. Sometimes they're brilliant. But it's just like, I don't know. I kind of miss the fun. Because he was brilliant and funny and more entertaining, but still brilliant. It wasn't like he was dumbing it down, being dumber or anything. So there's a lot of these great cartoonists of my generation there. I'm getting older, they're getting older, and they're getting a little too sedate for me. Even though there's a lot of new things for Clowes, and it's really good. But I was thinking about, like, when I was riding the bus home today, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, I wouldn't trade one issue of 8 Ball for this. It's like, I really like those. And I don't know. I wish Dan Clowes still had time to do stuff like that every now and then. But it seems like all he does is like release these very serious graphic novels every few years. Okay, just my 2 cents, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked looking at this book. I wish I could have maybe recounted it a little less dryly. Sometimes I'm not that good at using words. But I hope you just appreciated looking at the art. And I kind of want to tell most of my listeners that, it's not bad if you just turn the sound down. I'm not saying anything that great. I rarely do. But, it's kind of, I like to see videos of just people showing off their comics. So I hope you do too. And I hope also to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.